Okay, everybody, I'm going to start. Originally, I had planned to do Poland for today, but I was going to do a stuffed cabbage, but the cabbage that came in wasn't too good, so I decided to skip over the Atlantic Ocean and go to South America. So we're going to do Peru today. All right. Look at your first page in your fact sheet. Peruvian cuisine reflects local practices and ingredients, including influences from the indigenous population, including the Inca, and cuisines brought from Europe, in particular Spain, Germany, and Italy, Asia, China, and Japan, and West Africa. The four traditional staples of Peruvian cuisine are corn, potatoes, grains like quinoa, and legumes, things like beans, all that nature. Many foods from Spain are now considered Peruvian staples. Rice, lentils, chickpeas, garlic, cucumbers, carrots, eggplants, wine, olives, beef, pork, chicken, and numerous spices such as coriander, cumin, mint, cinnamon, and oregano. You're going to find that the dish I made today in particular is chancho adobado. You see, it's like a sweet and sour kind of, well, it's actually a sour pork. One of these, garlic is prevalent in it, as well as a natto, but I serve it with a sweet potato. Potatoes are very prevalent throughout the country, sweet potatoes in particular. I believe that's the African influence. It's a good foil to the sourness of the pork that you're going to taste. It also incorporates the coriander and the cumin that was kind of influenced by Spain, Spanish culture. Pacific Ocean is a principal source of aquatic resources for Peru. Peru is one of the top producers and exporters of unusually high protein fish meal for use in livestock and aquaculture feed. Aquaculture is farm raising of fish. That's all it is. If it's not wild caught, it's caught through aquaculture, means it's farm raised. That's all. Its richness in fish and other aquatic life is enormous, and many oceanic plant and animal species can only be found in Peru. Ceviche, which I was going to make today, but thought better of it, is found in almost all restaurants on the coast, typically served with camote, which is sweet potato. Many Peruvians believe that ceviche is an aphrodisiac and a hangover cure. So a lot of times they eat ceviche with beer, and hopefully to counteract the hangover, but it doesn't really work that way. But yeah, right. So we're gonna find ceviche is like, and you know ceviche is? Everybody knows, right? It's like a big scallops. Okay, ceviche is like, you're not really cooking the protein. If you take like a raw fish, I'm typically using an acid, usually a citrus, like a lime juice, lemon juice, with a lot of herbs. So you're placing that raw fish and that acid for a period of time with salt and pepper to marinate. So they're calling it cooking the fish. It really doesn't happen that way. What happens is the acid just like marinates the fish, but also tightens the meat fibers. So it actually tightens it. It gives it the mouthfeel that's actually cooked when it's really not. So that's another thing too. People think when you add acids to a marinade, you're actually degrading that protein to make it really tender. What happens is called a mouth shear. If I had like a rubber band and like I started chewing on it, it's kind of gross, but it's like you can't get through it. But if I tighten it and you can bite down, that's what acid does. Hold on a second. That's what acid does to the meat. So basically, the acid doesn't really make the meat more tender. It tightens up the fiber, so when your teeth go through the meat, it just breaks that much easier. Okay, so you're actually tightening the meat fiber instead of doing that. Tamales are frequently sold by street vendors, made with boiled corn, meat, or cheese wrapped in a banana leaf. In the valleys and plains of the Andes, the diet is still a traditional one based on corn, potatoes, and an assortment of tubers. Meat comes from indigenous animals like alpacas and guinea pigs. Eat those. Our pets are their staples, usually, so. But also from imported livestock like sheep, cattle, and swine. Among the fruits of Peru's Amazonian jungle are the camu camu, which contains 40 times more vitamin C than the kiwi fruit. Non-native fruits like mango and pineapple are also in abundance. Pisco, a kind of brandy is the national drink of Peru. This distilled beverage is made from grapes produced in various regions of the country. Beer is popular on all levels of society. A common beer drinking ritual involves a group sharing one glass. The party holding the bottle waits for the prior person to drink from the glass before receiving it. He then fills it and passes the bottle to the next one in line. So it's really never an empty glass. So you just put it on line. Chancho adobado is a dish we're going to make today. It is a national dish that incorporates common citrus flavors and seasonings common to many regional dishes. A natto from the achote tree, garlic, lemon, and orange. If you look here, I'm going to pass it around. This is one of those ingredients, kind of like turmeric, that's kind of really hard to describe. A natto, it does come from the achote tree. On it, the tree grows like these pods. It kind of looks prehistoric, pretty much. You peel them open, you get these hard seeds, and they dry them out. What I did, I took the seeds and I ground them. If you smell it, it's like a combination of like paprika and some kind of like, I want to say like dill or something like that. If you It's basically a coloring agent. I'll pass this around. I don't think it smells. So we're going to use that in our marinade. Chancho adobado. Swine is not really indigenous to the area. It's brought from Europe, actually. So what we're going to do is look at this whole recipe, and if you see the first 6 ingredients I have: cider vinegar, annatto, cumin, garlic, salt, and pepper. This is a very sour dish, so this pork has actually marinated 24 hours, so I'm going to serve to you overnight. What the vinegar does, because Peru is a very temperate climate, very warm, tendency of meat to go bad. So what you want to do is counteract it with an acid. Although they're acidophiles, acid-loving bacteria, for the most part, it's a good preservative for the pork. So it's basically strictly a high acid marinade, inundated with annatto, cumin, garlic, salt, pepper for flavoring. And after that, we will sear the meat. It goes kind of fast, you'll see in the production of it. Sear the meat with the marinade, and we'll finish it with orange juice and lemon juice and arrowroot as thickener. Arrowroot is a starch. I'm going to show this too. It's like a white powder. It's kind of similar. You can use this somewhat interchangeably with cornstarch, but there's a couple differences. When you use cornstarch, the finished product is very shiny. When you use cornstarch, you have to make sure your liquid comes to a boil before it thickens. Arrowroot, if you add it to your sauce and it comes to a boil, it degrades and becomes a liquid again. So you got to be very careful with this. It's a starch, high starch, and they actually make beverages out of it and give it to young children for nutrition value. In South America, usually arrowroot. St. Vincent arrowroot is a major producer. St. Vincent is an area in Peru that produces this. So it's a very high starch root, and it's ground to a powder, and they use it for baking, whatever. But it has like a good nutritional value to it as well, more so than cornstarch. And so we will begin. First 6 ingredients. If you look in your marinade, I'm going to do vinegar. Here's the first, obviously. Now this right here is the annatto. You can see if even I touch it now, it like immediately stains my fingers. It's that intense with the color. So what it does, it lends itself a nice orangey rust color to your finished product. This is ground cumin. And we have salt and pepper. So I'm just going to mince some garlic for it. I'm not sure if I should. The best way to do garlic is after you peel it, you just smash down the cloves. Make the paste of it so it's flat. Aggressively push it down. And it goes right there. What I have here is the marinated pork. I'm going to get the pan pretty smoking hot. This is the pork that's been marinated overnight. I'm just going to strain it out, but I will use this marinade that I just made in the finished product. This is going to be a braised dish. I covered braising a little bit before. Braising is like stewing. What you're going to do is you want to cook your meat that's not normally tender. You use like a shank meat or something like that, but you braise it in the liquid medium for about 2.5 hours for like a low temperature. It breaks down the collagen, the meat fibers of that product. It makes a very tough cut of meat very tender. Cheap cuts are usually reserved for that. What I'm looking for is the pan to get kind of smoking hot. Only season a little bit as you go. Is that salt always, you want this salty, but salt has that affinity. It's like it's called a master seasoning. What it does, helps to extract a lot of the moisture you're trying to get rid of, and it complements of the flavor of what you're doing. It makes the flavor of what you add to more intense by the elimination of that moisture. What we'll look for is the browning of the pork for the most part. I covered before called the Maillard reaction. The proteins caramelize. When I do that, instead of just dumping this raw meat into a liquid medium, you can lose a lot of flavor if I did that, if I just poach the meat. What this does, by caramelization, it takes all the meat proteins and you're forming hundreds of different compounds on the surface of that. So pork has its own protein compounds as well as beef, as well as fish does. So what this does is you're adding flavor, texture, and color to your finished product. Even when you do a roast, when you sear the roast, I touched on this once before, I believe too. People think that there's this magic barrier that happens when you sear a roast and helps retain the juices. That's not the case at all. You lose a lot of juice by doing that. It's only for color, flavor, and texture only. That's what you're doing that for. Marinate. Right away you can smell the garlic and the cumin indianado coming through. At this point in time, when the marinade comes to a boil, you add your pork. And this gets covered. Braised for about, it's about an hour and a half at 325 degrees till it's tender. And then when it comes out of the oven, is when I can actually do this now, actually, you can add some marinade too, you have to wait for it, is the addition of orange juice, stock. If you see white beef stock listed there, there's a couple stocks you can make, white beef stock or brown. Brown beef stock indicates the bones are roasted when you make that. White beef stock is just the boiling of the bones. That's all it is. So it's typically, it could be typically a lighter dish, but because I caramelize the meat so nice and dark, it comes out kind of dark anyway. But a white beef stock is kind of neutral because you did not roast the bones. It's just like the flavor. It's like kind of like a raw, more raw flavor of the beef instead of like a caramelized beef flavor. More neutral. At this point in time, what I did actually, you can follow the recipe both ways. You can marinate, braise it in the marinade. I like to add the juice and lemon juice, what I did today, because it helps to reduce it and concentrate the sugars of the orange juice. I like to add everything together. So what I do is at this point in time, after can you smell that cumin come now? Nice. A little bit. At this point in time, what you do is you cover this, and you would braise it at 325 for about an hour, hour and a half maybe, until the meat is tender. Now typically, because this dish has a very, you're going to taste it, has like a pretty sour attribute to it. It's the addition of the lemon juice, the marinade of the cider vinegar, and even the acid of the orange juice. It's got a subtle sweetness. It lends itself well to be served with something that's a nice foil to that flavor, which is going to be the sweet potato. So what it is, on the bottom here, you can see, I think I indicated sweet potatoes cooked and peeled. Typically what I did is just take the sweet potato, toss it in olive oil, a little salt and pepper, chili powder, cumin, and coriander. Those things are indigenous to that area. So what I did by roasting that sweet potato, you're accentuating the sweetness, the sugars in that potato. So when you taste it, try to get a little bit of the pork with the sweet potato, so you get like a sour sweet going on. So the sweet will come from the potato actually. Everything else in that pork is pretty sour. So you'll taste it. Any questions? No? Yes?
What kind of pork did you use on this?
This calls for a lean cut of pork, so I did loin, just a regular pork loin. So right along the back there. Yep.
Nice. You cut it up and diced it?
I did cut up and dice into 1-inch cubes. Yeah, it's like I like this is a really good recipe too. It's very acidic and very lean meat. You're gonna see it's like meat, some of that kind of fibrous, but it goes well with the sauce, and you're not gonna get a lot of fat on the sauce because I'm not using a fattier cut of meat. I didn't have to render too much besides the olive oil that was in there in the addition of the sauteing of the pork. There's no other fat really because it's a really lean cut of meat. Yep.
Thank you.
Sure. Hello? Huh?
So what's it look like plated?
Oh, sure, right now. was waiting for a question. So what I did is I made the recipe that you see on your left. It calls for about 18 pounds of pork. And what you're going to see is a garnish to highlight the fact that the orange juice and the lemon juice are in there. I'm going to garnish this with a little flurry of zest of each of the fruits. So you'll see a little orange and lemon zest on top of that. Typically you put the sweet potatoes on the bottom, yeah. Touch of the pork. Let's get the zester for this. And that's pretty much the finished product right there. See, taste okay? Any questions while getting ready to serve?
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you have a place to live?
I know where you live.
I have room.
I'll bring the wine. Okay. Sounds good. So I think next month I'm probably going back to Poland again and try that.
As long as the cabbage is good?
I think so. Yeah. Give it a shot. Any other questions?
Oh, what do we drink with that?
I think good beer would be good for that.
Beer, yeah.
Oh yeah. Nice beer. Nice, subtle. It's got a subtle spiciness to it, a sourness to it. It'd be good. Yeah. If it was a wine, I'd probably suggest it's kind of middle line, like something smooth, like a barrel fermented Chardonnay or something like that would go with it. I think probably kind of like a buttery flavor to the wine, kind of counteract the acid of it, you know. So, yeah. The thing too is like people a lot of times overlook the zest of citrus. You get so much oil, so much flavor out of this. As soon as you get to the white pith of it, you're gonna get to the bitter area of this. This has so much flavor, the skin of it. So whenever you're making orange juice, when you're baking, if it calls for lemon or orange juice, always use the whole thing, especially the rind. This has like so much intense flavor that you're just not gonna get from the juice, you know. So use the whole thing. It's good.
Eric,
Yes.
would you drink a pisco sour with that dish?
Pisco sour. Yes, you could. Right? Next couple culinary hours, I'm like aiming to go outside. The weather's nice. We'll get some nice weather. All right. As it gets cooler, September, October, we'll be outside. Okay.